Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 81.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey, and so glad that you have decided to tune in one more time. You guys know that we've been meeting some very high-level, interesting individuals that know way more about our brain than you and I do, which is great. And more importantly, it's awesome to be a part of a great event that's coming up, and many of you know about it. But what's really cool is to understand just how much each person cares, how much they've dedicated their life to figuring out the things that help us become more successful as we're out there looking to build our cash flow, looking to build our businesses. We have such great resources available to us because of the internet, today's world. It's amazing. So we've got another special guest for you today. But before we go there, those of you joining us for the first time, make your way over to learninvestingnow.com. That's learninvestingnow.com. And you will find that we have a complimentary course sitting there waiting for you so that you can begin your journey as well. Today's guest is one of the world's leading experts on communication, spirituality, and the brain. He's on the faculty at Loyola Marymount University. And what's really cool is even though he's so accomplished, he's willing to share so much. He's authored 12 books, including the national bestseller, How God Changes Your Brain. And that one Oprah picked in 2012. So there's lots of questions just for me inside that one book alone. And he's been published throughout the world, featured in Time, Washington Post, New York Times, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Investors Business Weekly, and of course, Oprah Magazine. Now, that's just a quick way of saying is that we're going to learn a lot today. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to find out a lot about ourselves. So please help me welcome Mr. Mark Waldman.
I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you for having me on your program.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to share and just to help us understand more about ourselves in a lot of cases. Now, one question I love to ask nearly everybody is that I envision that today's entrepreneurs are like yesterday's superheroes. And, you know, like Spider-Man and Batman and Robin and those guys. And all of those guys have an origin story. And so before Batman was Batman, he was, Bruce Wayne, and he's, orphan and all this other stuff. Who was Mark Waldman before Mark Waldman was, Mark Waldman?
I would say that Mark Waldman was a terribly confused individual who didn't even know that he was terribly confused until a psychotherapist back when he was 23 years old suggested that he was terribly confused. And because I was so terribly confused, I began to believe in the lie that psychotherapist had given me. And 40 years later, I've come to the conclusion that we have to be very careful about what other pundits of the mind say about ourselves because we're so open. We all kind of have a childlike imagination. And so when somebody else suggests something and says, this is what's true about yourself or the world, part of our brain is incredibly trusting. And we take in what the other person says, and we never do a fact check. And so what happens is that throughout life, we're constantly filling our heads with all kinds of myths and fantasies and partial truths. And the funny thing is that the brain hates all of that because there's some tiny mechanism inside that says, no, that's not quite right.
Wow. Okay. So you said something that I found interesting already. You said we don't do a fact check.
No.
How would we do one? How do I know if I am or not?
Well, there's two parts of our brain. There's the lower functioning of our brain, our perceptual awareness, the place where we are constantly living in the present moment. And we know that situation, for example, when we wake up. When we wake up, we're usually not filled with thoughts about what am I going to do today? What problems do I need to solve? What's going to happen? No, it's like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to wake up. And we take care of our bodily needs. Now, for human beings, for most mammals, they're very connected with their primary emotions, which would be pleasure versus pain. Anything that's pleasurable, which is something that's new, interesting, generates curiosity in human brains and in the brains of most creatures. And so we tend to move towards anything that's new or different or intriguing because it might be of value to us down the road. This is the motivational circuit of the brain. This is your seeking emotion, your desire to acquire. And because human brains are so big, we actually desire to acquire everything we possibly can. No matter how much money you have, no matter how many friends you have, no matter how much happiness you have, the research that we've done shows that everyone still wants more. We have the greediest, hungriest, most desirous brains in the world, and it gets us into trouble. On one hand, it's important to know that money, or what money represents, is the single most powerful motivating force in the human brain. But money is just an avenue towards achieving the things that we desire. And in this world, there's another neurological functioning that takes place. If I did this and I just went after everything I wanted all the time, I'd just be a greedy, selfish individual like people on Wall Street.
And probably tired too, but you know.
Well, no, it looks like we are born to be as greedy and as selfish as possible. The problem is when we see somebody else being greedy and selfish, another neurological circuit is triggered in the observer's brain, and it triggers a response called altruistic punishment. And what that means is that I am willing to punish you if you do not treat me with generosity and fairness. If you do not share your wealth, whether it be knowledge or happiness or money with me, I'm going to punish you, even if it's at an expense to me. So these two things create a social balance. We are driven to invent, create more, acquire more, but in order to maintain a connection with other people, we must also develop incredible social awareness, sensitivities. We have to be able to feel the pleasure of giving to others. And
now, well, there's something I just got to ask this question now, because there's something I've been saying to people a lot, and I still think it's very, very true. And I think you're going to shed a lot of light on this for a lot of people. For those of us who are building cash flow, you know, the idea of it is exciting, period. I don't care what you say. It's great. So it gets us moving in the correct direction. However,
it's the money circuit in the brain.
Right. And that's why I was listening. I was listening to you and going, I think that's what he's talking about there. However, I've told many investors, being it on stage, in my book, what have you, that the two emotions, in my opinion, that most investors, or I'll say people, are dealing with at any given time is fear and greed. Those two, and they typically are, you know, most of the investors experiencing fear typically when they're looking at buying something or acquiring, because this is what started, you know, my wheels turning, when you said the desire to acquire. So, and they're typically dealing with greed when it comes time to selling, or in your case, the word you were using was sharing something. And I would just, you know, you being the smart brain guy you are, I would love to hear your thoughts on that thought of mine.
Well, one of the things that we're doing, this is how I'm going to respond to your greed part, is that we're bringing into the business community, and this first started in the Harvard Business School, which one of the first universities to recognize that greed is natural to the human nervous system, to the human condition. I mean, it's part of our survival basis. We cannot go against our survival needs. So remember, instead of using the word greed, I use the word desire. We are curious. You take a mouse and you put it into a maze and you put all kinds of unusual things in it. And what it's going to do is it's going to go around sniffing out. It's going to gather and collect those things and save it. It's an investment it's making. It's collecting all of this new stuff because it may have value in the future. This is true for a mouse. and it's 10 times more true for a human being. Back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, if you remember the movie Beautiful Mind, and it was about John Nash, who won the Nobel Prize in economics for the notion of game theory. But his model was human beings, when given the opportunity, will try to make as much money as they possibly can for themselves and not care about anybody else. So for the next 50 years, a tremendous amount of research went into a field that's now called neuroeconomics. And we can actually put people in brain scan machines and give them all kinds of choices. So for example, I'll give you one of the exercises and you can actually experience it for yourself.
Okay.
I'm going to be the research professor, and I bring you into the laboratory and say, you know what? It's your lucky day. You go into that room there, and there's $100 in $1 bills on the table in there.
Okay.
And an exit door. You can go into that room, close the door. Nobody will be looking at you or anything else. You may take as much or as little money off that table as possible and leave through the exit door.
Okay.
How much money do you take off the table?
Is there anyone else in the waiting room with me at that time? No.
Nobody.
I have there in my head. There's no reason not to take every dollar.
But notice in both your facial expressions that I can see and everything else,
Right.
there's a lot of hesitancy around this.
Right.
You are actually experiencing the neurological dilemma of greed versus if there's somebody else around, they may punish me if I take too much. That's exactly that visceral experience you had is exactly that model that's been discovered. So I've clarified it for you. There's nobody watching. There's nobody coming into the room or anything else. It's all up to you. How much money do you take?
I have no reason to leave any whatsoever.
Okay, but I imagine you're actually in the situation. Do you actually take all the money, or do you feel too guilty to do so?
Oh no, I don't feel too guilty to do so. I in my head, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to help somebody, on the other side of the door, or does someone else need it more than I do? That's what I'm in my head. That's what I'm thinking. Is someone behind me really in need of the money, and therefore I'll leave it? But if that's not the case, then yeah, I'll take every dollar.
Well, you're already expressing the higher level of entrepreneurial development, so you're aware that the money is there for you, you can take it, but you're also already thinking, might this be of more benefit to somebody else?
Correct. So, yeah.
We can look at a wide range of things, and the stereotypical person on Wall Street will take it all because they don't give a damn about anybody else. Okay, but the flip side of the coin is that we've been imposed upon that we have to share everything. That a lot of people can't take it all, even if it's free, because they're going to feel guilt. That's the individual who's going to fail at business.
Oh, wow.
So we have to, again, honor that part. So how much money are you taking off the table?
I'll take the $100 and the table.
Okay. Well, I didn't offer you the table. So
I know.
You get arrested on the outside.
Right now. I would take the $100 for sure. Yeah. In this situation, there's no reason to not take the $100, all of it.
But now you know that somebody else is going to come in, and I change the rule just a little bit and say, you may take as much money off the table as you want, and the next person comes in the room gets the remainder.
I would likely take half.
You likely take half. Here you can begin to both analyze different business strategies, but in essence, what they've done is figure out at what point it's okay to take more than half. So they set up an experiment where both of you are in the room.
Okay.
By the way, we can change the game too. What if there's $10 million in the room, and I tell you to go in and take as much as you want? How do you react? Nobody else going in after you.
It's the same situation. There's no difference.
Yeah. Well, does it feel different to you?
No, it's just I got to have more bags to carry it, I guess.
For many of your listeners, this is a totally different situation. And so what holds true for $100 does not. There are different rules when there's a tremendous amount of money being involved.
Oh, I get it. I get what you're saying. No, I feel like I'm in the exact same emotional state. It's the exact same thought process. It's still going through my head,
So let's take the mind game one further.
Sure. You
and I are in the same room.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a certain amount of money off the table first. If you don't like the deal,
Mm-hmm.
you can say, no, I don't accept it, and we both leave with no money.
Okay.
So there's $100 on the table, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm in there. And obviously, if I take all $100, correct, are you going to accept that deal, or are you going to say, nope, I don't accept it?
Yeah. Again, in my head, what goes off is, what else are you providing me of value? You know, it's
Nothing.
not.
I'm just a greedy son of a bitch, and you know.
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, there's no, no, I'm not going to accept that deal. There's no, win-win doesn't have to be equal, but there has to be a win.
Okay, so I'm going to take $99 and leave you $1.
That's still, I mean, if you're not providing any additional value outside of the dollars, then it's got to be 50-50. If there's something else you're providing me of value, then yeah, it can be it doesn't have to be an equal dollar amount.
But that's what altruistic punishment is. So if I take $70 off the table, you're going to say no to the deal, which means that you're losing at that point. You're willing to lose $30 so that I don't get my $70. Correct?
Oh, well, no, not really. When you put it that way.
But you do that at $99. You'll sacrifice the dollar that you'd have.
Yeah, it's a dollar it's a dollar. It's $1.
Now you understand why I said $10 million. If I did the same thing and I say, you know what?
Got it.
I'm going to take $9 million and only leave you $1 million off on the table.
That's fine.
You're going to accept it.
Yeah, I can.
You're going to be pissed off at me for being unfair.
I may not do business with you in the future, but I will take the $1 million.
You will not do business with me in the future. That's the key element that I wanted to bring up.
Yes.
This is what we now teach at Harvard School, at my College of Business, at LMU. You need to be generous first. The more you can build a sense of trust and generosity with your customers, the more willing they will to support you and do business with you down the road. But that's an entirely new model that basically proved that John Nash's Nobel Prize winning notion was entirely incorrect. Generosity comes first.
I agree. You know what's funny about that is having made this transition into instead of just doing what we do, providing real estate, clean, safe, affordable housing, as we've made this transition into showing and telling and teaching other people, not only has more been coming to us, but it's actually been more fulfilling to help so many other people begin to take their first journeys and raise their capital for the first time and get their first single family houses and multifamily houses. And we're doing our best to create so much complimentary content on all the YouTube channels, and it costs nothing. There's just so much out there, and we get emails all the time where people saying to us, we can't believe how much you give away for free. And I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just trying to help people. And I think based upon what you're saying, if more entrepreneurs just came from a space of service, that we would have this situation.
But this is the neuroeconomics of how your brain works.
Got it.
And so when we honor that, we honor not just ourselves, but we honor the society as well. And then we can begin to use these types of games and exercises. We can identify at what stage in a child's development they're capable of appreciating the value of a fair exchange. And it takes a long time for that to happen, about 28 years.
What? Why?
Because the part of the brain that evaluates fairness and empathy and generosity, the part of the brain designed for social awareness, is almost non-existent during the first 10 years of your life and doesn't fully come online until you're about 28, 29, 30 years old.
What's funny about that is being a parent, 4 kids, the 17, 6, 4, and 3, and the 6, 4, and 3-year-old, we're always especially talking about sharing and being generous to one another. But based upon the information you're saying right now, somehow that's a challenge for them at that age.
Well, they learn about this very early. The child, when they're first born, first of all, wants as much of anything new or different as they possibly can have.
At the same
time,
time,
a bunch of toys.
Yeah.
Another child comes into the room and they go pick up any toy. It doesn't matter what toy it is, because this kid over here is playing with this toy. They say, oh, you're playing with my toy. No, 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 you can't do that. And so what happens is that this child gets up and walks away and leaves the child alone. Well, it turns out one of the other neurological needs, the thing that we desire the most beyond material stuff, is connections with other people. So a very young child begins to learn through play how to share their toys. Oh, if I share this toy with that person, I can play with their toy. And very slowly, over many, many years, through this play development, we learn how to interact and exchange and find out ways in where we both benefit from our shared interaction.
You know, what's interesting is if for some reason any of my college courses were as halfway interesting as this guy, I probably would have stayed longer. Didn't say, notice, I still didn't say I would have completed it. Would have stayed longer. It's interesting, you know, for those who are able, you know, to take classes in college with Mr. Mark Waldman here. You know, I think you guys are very fortunate. I love how useful the information is. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it too, because the experiments and things that, you know, that are happening here are amazing. Anyway, wanted to let you guys know that Mark and myself, we will be at the Money Squared event with John Assaraf, Sharon Lecter, Jim Bunch, and a few others. You've heard from many of the others already. There's, I think, a total of 11 of us, which is kind of cool. Be out there in San Diego. So all you San Diego people, I'm looking forward to meeting you. That'll be great. And make sure, for those of you who, if you haven't attended yet, you want to go over to cashflowdiary.tv. We do a web show there every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. And what we're doing is I'm just answering your questions as it relates to real estate investing, business ownership in real time. So if you've got a question, great time to do that is to ask it is to get your answer right there, Tuesday, 4 p.m. at cashflowdiary.tv. Of course, still working on the audiobook. I want to make sure that you guys know that. You probably have noticed, though, the book is it's in the iBook store. It's on Kindle. We prefer that you obviously go to cashflowdiary.com/book and get it straight from us. However, you don't have to. You can get it on many different types of devices. We have an electronic copy as well on the website. So the print version is going around. Well, it's going along well. You guys are enjoying it. At least that's what I'm hearing, which I thank you for. The audio is coming soon. If you want to make sure that you're on the list for the audio, it is 949-682-3565, and you're going to send a text message to that number. The keyword is audio. So the keyword is audio to 949-682-3565. And hopefully, for those of you who have been waiting, I know you've been waiting for the new Raising Private Capital course, season 1 to come out. It is on its way. You'll probably be receiving emails about that here soon. So if you're on that list, or if you've asked for information regarding Raising Private Capital, you want to make sure that you're on that list so that you know about the course we've had. It was fun. It was amazing. I know that the individuals who have already participated in that information have raised tens of thousands, some even millions of dollars, which is interesting and fun to be able to help people in that way. Again, that's a text message to 949-682-3565. The keyword is money, or you can just go to cashflowdiary.com/money. Enough of all that stuff. As you can tell, we're busy over here creating for you guys based upon the questions you sent in. If you send in questions that say, hey, help me find money, we're going to go create something that'll help you do that, because that's obviously what we do. So the course is going to be there really, really soon. And we've got something special coming up later in the month for all of those who have purchased something from us. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Keep your emails open for that, because we're going to be talking about that soon as well. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get straight on back over to the interview. You know what's funny about that is that what you're, even though you're using kids as the example, that's the same thing that happens every time I've talked to a seller or a buyer for a house. It's the same thing that happens when I talk to someone seeking to raise capital or contribute. No matter what it is, that I'll call that exchange still takes place. It's just different. We're using different words, different terms, different things that we're sharing with our toys. Our toys are different, but the principles are still the same. I find this very interesting.
Right. So you brought up the other part of your equation. So this addressed the greed side, but you also brought up the other side about fear.
Yes.
And so what I'm going to suggest is one of our primary fears, one is a fear of pain, but the other fear is social fear, which would be fear of rejection or retaliation.
Okay.
So again, if you don't share your toy with the other person punishes you by removing the social pleasure of the interaction. So we build a sense of fear in childhood too. But what many people don't realize is that as adults, we're walking around with a lot of old childhood fears. Most of our worries, fears, and doubts are memories pulled from the past and are being projected onto the present moment and onto the future. They aren't real.
Hold on. Say that again. Most of you said their worries, fears, and doubts are memories?
90% of our worries, fears, and doubts are nothing more than a memory pulled out from the past and being projected onto the future. They have nothing to do with what's happening right now. And
I'm trying to reconcile this in my head. Sorry, when I think about worry, at least before this conversation, when I was thinking, I pre-framed worry as borrowing trouble from the future. I'm concerned about something in the future, but you're saying it's not in the future. Help.
Name to me one worry that you think is real right now.
That I think is real? I don't think any of them are necessarily real. That's why
if it's not real, what is it?
Imaginary? Fake?
That's what I'm calling that's what a memory is. A memory is just a picture, and it's very inaccurate. A memory only captures little bits and pieces of an actual event, and then each time we recall that memory, it changes. So we're not even recalling the same memory twice, but we don't know that. Most of our autobiographical memories, neuroscientists have now proven, have nothing to do with the reality of what we experienced as children.
Okay. If this is the case, then we should... All right. So based upon what you're saying, then, we should have the ability to I guess, manipulate our memory, if you will, to be whatever we need it to be, or just dismiss it altogether.
Well, we can do that.
Okay, keep going.
And the coolest thing is that the first step for getting rid of a negative memory is exactly what you said. You can turn to it, because when the memory comes up, it almost comes up as part image and part dialogue. So like, one of my worries would be, I won't have enough money for long-term retirement. Okay.
Oh yeah. That's a lot of the clients we work with, that's their first thing they say is, Jay, I don't want to outlive my money. Right. And that's why we base it on cash flow as opposed to pile of cash. But okay.
30-year-olds don't think about that. They're too stupid to realize that they should be looking on retirement when they are 30 years old. Remember, they don't have that brain. They're still narcissistically engaged. They're not aware of long-term. Here I am at 60 going, oh, crap, why didn't I think about this back when I was 30?
Yeah, well, it's all good. That's what mentors are supposed to be for, if we have them.
But here's the thing about that worry. I'm worrying now whether I'll have enough money to live on when I'm 90 years old. But I could be hit by a truck tomorrow.
Right.
So what we do is that we teach people, okay, you focus in on a worry. And first of all, worrying about something never solves a problem. It's like I'm driving my car and somebody cuts me off. If I'm going to worry about how am I going to get out of the way, I'm going to be dead. No, our instincts kick over. We find that our consciousness takes a back seat and we watch ourselves maneuver our car out of danger. And then we go, oh yeah, you miserable person. You blame them usually.
Yeah, right. Usually.
Rather than the fact that I was the bad driver this time.
Right. Well, then it was my fault. If it was you, it was my fault in this case.
Right.
So. Wow.
But that's all cognitive work going on after the fact. If we come into the present moment, then we're no longer dealing with the memory. So the question is okay, it is true. I don't have enough money to make it to 90, but there's a lot of assumptions in there. I'll have plenty of money if I'm working till 89.
Right. You got time to do something about it.
So in the work that I do with my students and in the programs we create in the mindfulness training programs, we put a lot of emphasis into this statement, which is that 90% of your worries, fears, and doubts are fantasies, negative fantasies, being projected onto a future that doesn't exist. It takes you out of the present moment where real problem solving takes place. So we spend a lot of time teaching a person how to be in the present moment, how to be connected with what's actually happening rather than living in their memories and projecting them into their imaginary futures.
You just took my very next question to you was going, okay, so if that's the case, how does one stay present, without going too far into the future, into the back? And then more importantly, how do you ever plan? How do you make a plan if you're looking to the future to make something happen? How do you make a plan? I mean, I don't know.
Like I said, the worry is just, oh, what if this, what if that? The worry never helps you make a plan. But let me ask you and every person who's listening in on this call, close your eyes for a moment and think about a worry that you currently have.
Okay.
Notice that the more you visualize that worry, the more real it begins to feel.
Yes, I don't like that.
This is okay, but do it anyway. Because when you sit there, this is called mindfulness. When you watch your worry, when you watch your problem, even if it's real, even if you watch physical pain as it occurs, you fundamentally disconnect from the physical pain, and you end up, the observing self ends up being very calm and serene, even when you are in severe pain. So this is what mindfulness is. It teaches you that you can be in the present moment and not necessarily be as connected to real or imaginary worries, fears, doubts, and problems that you have. But come back to that worry, feel how real it is. And then here's what I want you to do. I want you to do one or all of the following three things. I want you to yawn and slowly stretch, so slowly that you can feel every muscle in your neck and shoulders and arms as you yawn and stretch. And then I want you to take your fingertips and start to stroke your palms of your hands and your arms. And as you do that, the more you can immerse yourself in that sensation, notice what happened to every single thought you had that was worrisome.
I think every single thought I had was just gone. Worrisome or not.
You cannot do both. You cannot experience pleasure. You cannot be relaxed. You cannot be in the present moment and worry at the same time.
Huh. That's funny. I like that.
So these are very specific strategies that we teach people what to do. So for example, let's say you're about to go into an important business meeting, one that you feel unprepared for. Maybe you have to give a talk or a presentation or something like that. Under the table, we actually teach our business executives to just do this with their hand. It turns out that when you stroke your palms of your hands, it stimulates the self part of your brain in your parietal lobes. I know you told me not to use big words, and I'm going to stay away from the dorsolateral frontal cortex along with the cuneus. But right now, the parietal lobe is where your sense of self is.
Right.
And it gets stronger when you stroke the palms of your hands. And if you're feeling anxiety, it turns out that if you stroke your arms, the anxiety circuits in your brain begin to calm down. So you can sit underneath the table and do this, and this will help you to remain far more present and connected in a conflict-ridden situation with somebody else or a tense situation.
Now, here's the thing. For those of you listening, I hope you're understanding this, because you're going to experience all of these emotions. He's showing you and myself how to, mitigate, manage, if you will, you're going to experience it at the closing table. You're going to experience it when you sign your first, purchase agreement. You're going to experience the first time you talk to an investor and say, hey, I'm going to use your, 100,000, 200,000, $500,000 in this project, and this is what we're going to do. You're going to experience it the first time the property manager calls you and says, guess what? The tenant didn't pay, or somebody, a fire happened and you got an insurance claim, all those things. And because I've often said to people, and I think what you're saying backs this up. I often said to people is that people don't invest with you because, of everything going well. They want to know that you have the ability to respond when things don't go so well. Yeah. And what you were giving us is the ability to respond as opposed to react.
Well, they need to know whether or not they can trust you. And in our neuroscientific research, we came up with and stumbled upon actually one particular memory that you can evoke that when you do so will cause the other person to neurologically trust you in about 7 seconds or less.
Okay. I'm guessing you're not going to share that right now, are you?
I would love to know what's the first thought comes to your mind. What do you think that memory would be that would cause the other person to trust you?
The memory would be, I would say, their mother? Memory of their mom?
It's interesting. Well, it depends whether or not your mother beat you.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was like. Maybe you don't want to say mother because if not, maybe a memory of eating. That's probably.
Well, that'd be interesting. I wonder about that one. Probably would be true. When you think of all the paintings you've seen in your lifetime, is there any one painting that gave you an incredible sense of well-being, that filled you with a sense of contentment and satisfaction and bliss?
A painting. Things. Weiland is a very, Wales kind of guy, so I like his stuff. But there's nothing. I mean, Mona Lisa is the first thing that comes to my head when you said painting, though.
Exactly the one that I was hoping you to pick.
Oh. Okay.
What is it about the Mona Lisa that you find so seductively attractive?
Simple.
The smile.
Yeah, it's a simple photo of a smile, or painting of a smile. Yeah.
Now here's the thing: the most famous person in the world when it comes to identifying human feelings and emotions in facial expressions is Paul Ekman. Mm-hmm. And he's the person that has studied, 10,000 facial expressions and teaches basically law enforcement individuals how to read a person's face to tell you give you a sense of whether they're lying or being truthful to you.
Wow.
And he said that the one thing you couldn't fake was a true sense of love, care, and compassion because they involved involuntary muscles of the face. But we discovered a very interesting exercise one day. When teaching people how to communicate with others, we have people stand up and we have them gaze into each other's eyes. And I'll do this in a room with 1,000 people, for example. And just standing there and gazing at somebody else's face, 90% of the people are going to get really uncomfortable within the first 30 seconds.
Yes. Because
eye contact, particularly if you have a relaxed face, feels like somebody is watching you and monitoring you. In fact, if we go back to remember the original experiment about being in the room, and I put money on the table and tell you to take as much as you want.
Right.
If I hang up a mirror in that room or a picture of somebody staring at you, you will leave more money on the table.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Okay.
So it's a reminder that, just like you said, well, is there anybody else in the room watching me or whatever else? When we know somebody's watching us, we tend to be more honest.
Wow. Interesting. This is, I hope you guys are listening and enjoying this as much as I am. You can hear me learning and going through evolutions. I've said it before, I say it again. You're going to be the same today except for two things. You're same today and tomorrow except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. And clearly, we were talking to a gentleman who knows a lot because he's authored 12 books. Speaking of which, can we talk? The title.
I want to give you that exercise that creates that neurological.
Okay. You've got some. Yeah, go ahead. Go.
You have to generate that Mona Lisa smile, but that's an involuntary thing. You can't fake it. You can't just paste a smile on your face. It looked like this. It's like Nancy Pelosi being interviewed by Jon Stewart. It's like, oh my God, this is like you fake that fake smile on your face. But if you close your eyes and you deeply relax and you think about somebody you deeply love or an event that brought you deep satisfaction, you'll feel that subtle half smile begin to spread across your face. The muscles around your eyes will begin to soften. And then with those 1,000 people in the room, we ask them to open up their eyes again. And you see this person with a Mona Lisa smile on their face. And you can gaze at each other for 5 minutes. And I ask, how many of you feel uncomfortable? And maybe 10 hands will go up out of 1,000.
Wow. See, and it's funny.
That is the smile you need to have if you're a therapist going in to talk to a client. If you're a doctor about to tell a cancer patient some bad news. But it's even more essential that if you are a real estate agent or you're an investment salesperson or you are selling any kind of product or service, that if you take a moment before you meet that person, relax, think about your deepest values, and think about somebody you deeply love, and then you walk into the room with that inner sense of well-being, that person will immediately trust whatever advice you give them. And every sociopath knows that by heart.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that would be the case.
Sociopaths can fake it and get away with it.
Wow. That's not good. Well, we there's so much information here that it's amazing to me right now.
But I want you to see how much of this one you can immediately apply to work tomorrow. You're going to meet your boss. You're going to interview somebody new. You're going to meet a new customer. What would happen if you simply tried this experiment? Close your eyes for a minute beforehand. We have so many of our students and clients and everything else say, you know what? The person bought the product before I even pitched them.
Yeah, I've had that actually happen. So let me ask you this question then. How does one do this in a internet fashion? You know, I mean, we've got videos, but when you think about phone calls, I mean, many of the times when we're making offers, we're not actually in front of the person physically. So is there ways to do the same thing with just over the phone?
Well, the most important connection that we make, first of all, the thing that we use to tell if the person's words are truthful or not, is the person's facial expression. That's number one. Number two is their tone of voice. So ideally, a Skype connection, a video conferencing call would be the best. In person is always better than Skype. But Skype comes pretty close to this because you can see the facial expressions.
I see. Interesting.
And it actually turns out if you got a good speaker system with your internet and your computer, you'll have better sound quality than you'll have with a telephone put to your ear because you have really lousy speakers.
Right. Wow.
This is also why I tell people that be very careful about written correspondence. They will always be perceived as being slightly more hostile than you intend.
Yeah, why is that? Because, I mean, I sent a text message. It happened to us yesterday. Someone sent in an email, and my assistant read it, and she was like, are they upset? And I was like, I don't think so. I'm going to call to make sure. And I called, and she wasn't upset at all. It's just the way when you read the words, I can see why it would be that way. But what is that about?
Well, we read somebody else's email very quickly, and we impose our own tones and nuances onto it. So it's kind of like saying, I'm going to give you a verbal email. And let's just say this is an email from a husband to a wife.
Okay.
I love you very deeply, and I'm really looking forward to having dinner with you tonight.
Yeah, that's not going to go over well.
No, but that's all it is. That's just a string of words.
Right.
Now, if you had an argument with your wife the night before, she may be angry. So she'll say, oh, I'd love to have dinner with you tonight, and I love you very dearly. She could be putting that message onto your thing.
Right.
You might think, oh, he's just faking it. I'd love to have dinner with you tonight.
Right.
So you can see that unless we can hear the tone of voice and ideally see the person's facial expression at the same time, we impose our own meaning onto those words.
Now, okay, everyone, I hope you're excited as I am. If you didn't know already, we're talking to Mark Waldman, and he's going to be at the Money Squared event. You got to share us a little bit. What more do you actually have in store that we could learn from? Because if you got 12 books, I know that we've barely even covered chapter 1 in any one of the books, if that. So I'm curious to know, a little bit more about what you would be able to be presenting there, and how that also could help us continue to generate cash flow and build bigger, better business.
I'm going to take people through about 15 of these core exercises. I've described a few of them to you on this program, but we've done it really fast in interview style. I'm going to do it a lot slower and take people clearly through this relaxation process, coming into the present moment. And then we're going to do something really fun and amazing. We're going to create what's called a crap board.
Okay.
It's more useful than a vision board.
Oh, right. This is going to be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to be there.
You're going to put on a single sheet of paper every worry, fear, and doubt, every piece of crap you have. Crap stands for conflicts, resistances, anxieties, and problems. But you're going to do so while you're in this deeply relaxed state, thinking about people that you love, focusing on your deepest, innermost values. And what will happen is that the moment you get this all on your sheet of paper, all of your worries, fears, and doubts are going to look distant. They're going to look like a bunch of words on a piece of paper. And the most interesting thing is that you post that crap board up next to your computer and your mind stops worrying.
I can't wait. This is exciting. So for those of us that want to take some more immediate action and want to find out more of the things that you have to say and offer, because I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you are hearing how I'm interpreting these things. This is very useful when it comes to the interpersonal skill required to build cash flow as a real estate investor, and to have the emotional intelligence necessary to just do business in general and work with people. If we wanted to find more out about you, sir, what would be the best way to do that, and what would you like us to do?
Well, you go to my website, which would be www.markrobertwaldman.com, and of all of these strategies I've built into a new self-training audio program called Neuro Wisdom 101. So it's the first mindfulness program that integrates the neuroscience of both happiness and success, of how to build both inner and outer wealth. And it takes you through 58 lessons of exercises very similar to some of the ones that I've given you so far. And after this 8-week period of time, we've been able to show that you have better control over your emotions, you feel more motivated in your work productivity increases, work stress decreases, you become more successful at work and at home.
Wow. Love it. Thank you very much for the time that you've been able to spend here. I definitely appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and I thank you for even taking me through some exercises so that I could get some revelations. That was very, very cool, and I appreciate it a whole lot.
My pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time to move at the speed of instruction. Go to markrobertwaldman.com. Go figure out, those things. I love the idea of the crap board. If you're going to be at Money Squared, I can't wait to meet you, but I'm looking forward to doing my own board right now. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had fun being here again today. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you guys as well as talking to you soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.